Welcome to the Four Seasons Podcast, brought to you by B&H Wealth Strategies, serving Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia since 1966. Here, we guide you through the ever-changing seasons of your financial journey, offering insights to help you grow, protect, and enjoy your wealth. Ready to turn your financial dreams into reality? Dare to dream. And now, here's your host, President of B&H Wealth Strategies, Jeff Bingham.
In 1966, the world was a very different place. The Dow was under 1,000 and a long-term plan meant a handshake and a ledger. 60 years later, the tools have changed, but the mission at B&H Wealth Strategies hasn't. Welcome back, everybody. Skip Monty here again with President of B&H Wealth Strategies, Jeff Bingham, and we're fortunate today to have Media and Marketing Director, Mr. Matt Bingham, with us as well. Jeff, Matt, how are we doing today?
Doing great.
Doing well. Yeah, it's the man that normally is behind the scenes that helps on my end of this the podcast to put it together, among other things that he does for the firm. So it's nice to have him on camera and become where I don't have to be, as you always say, the star. He's the co-star now of the Four Seasons podcast.
Absolutely. And he is the behind the scenes talent, not just with all the camera work, but and recording, but if I'm not mistaken, Matt, you play the guitar on the intro, right?
Yeah, that is me. That is me
Awesome.
today.
Awesome. Well, we're thrilled to have you in front of the camera for once, and maybe we can get him back.
Sure.
But today, our last episode, we delved into the start of the celebration of 60 years with B&H Wealth Strategies, which is phenomenal. And we discussed the philosophies and goals really haven't changed in that amount of time. How different is the world, and the financial environment from back then in 1966? How have things changed?
That's a great question. As we were talking a little off camera, and I've kind of obviously looked at this over time and researched all of it. Over 60 years. I mean, um, one of the interesting things right off the bat, I'll tell you, the 1966, the year this firm started, it was a bear market. The stock market was in a bear market. So, which means that from a peak to trough in 1966, the market dropped by more than 20%. That's the definition, the academic definition of a bear market. So, starting a new firm and a new business and watching, the value drop, clients' values, investments, and all those kind of things drop, about 20% is, that'll take a breath away. That'll show whether you got fortitude and longevity and the tenacity to stay with it. And obviously here we are 60 years later. So that's one aside. But the other thing is, you mentioned the Dow was below 1,000. The Dow was at 830 points on roughly on April 1st, 1966. On April 1st, this will be, plus or minus off this, on April 1st, 2026 rather, the Dow Jones was around 46,000. Now, remember that just a few short weeks prior to that, we had set the record for where the Dow was, and that was at 50,000. So it had been at 50, we're at 46 on April 1st. So, what does that translate into dollars and cents? I can give you an idea of that. If you'd invested $100 in the Dow Jones Industrial Average on April 1st on 1966, held it and reinvested the dividends in it until April 1st of 1966, or excuse me, 2026, excuse me, a lot of numbers in there. It'd been worth $85,000. So that's the growth of $100. That's a compounded annual return of nearly 12% is what that works out to be. So that's one thing. The other thing, I think a couple other things that I'll kind of point out in there is that, there's a lot of talk in the world today about inflation, right? Inflation. And, it's, and the affordability crisis and whatnot. And so we got inflation, by April 1st of this year, we're a little below 3%, but the average inflation rate since 1966 until today, has been roughly 4%. And what that does to the value of a dollar is that dollar in 1966, that your purchasing power of that, it takes $10 today to equal the purchasing power of the dollar in 1966. So that's why when we talk about investing and taxes and compound rates of return and why you have to invest in stocks, which are the best performing assets over the long term. As I just said, 12% rate of return over the last 60 years. It's the only thing that'll keep your purchasing power intact because it's the invisible tax that is there because it just erodes that. And so again, think a dollar then takes 10 today. A couple of other quick kind of factoids, I guess, that you want that I'll throw out there. The average cost of a home in 1966, because there's a lot of talk about affordability crisis in homes again today. The average cost of a home in 1966 was 14, excuse me, not 14, was $21,000. The national average for a house today is a little better than $400,000. In the state of Tennessee, a little more affordable in the state of Tennessee. The average cost of a new home in Tennessee today is 325,000. So again, which makes the state of Tennessee about 25% more affordable than the national average, and that's kind of true. I mean, we don't have a state income tax. We all talk about how the cost of living, here in our little neck of the woods here in East Tennessee is not nearly as draconian as it is in the larger urban centers, whether it be Atlanta, Charlotte, and kind of the South, or whether you talk California, New York, those kind of places. But the interesting thing about that is you just said, wow, about that. And I told Matt this earlier that what do you think that if the average compound rate of return of a house, a $21,000 house to 400, what's the rate of return on, appreciation on that house over that time period?
I don't have a clue.
5%. So we think
Oh,
how
wow.
large and how crazy that is, but that's 60 years from, so again, housing, I'm not suggesting that there's not an affordability crisis by any stretch. The listeners that are out there, but, but it's not nearly as much, and that doesn't even count how much money in the maintenance and the insurance and the property tax and the expense of owning a home over that time. So it really would take that interest or the compound return on the house appreciation, from 21 to 400. But 5% versus what has the market done? The market's done 12% over the exact same time period. What's the better investment? Because people always say real estate homes is always the better investment. What's the better investment? One's appreciated in value by 5%. Now you got to live in that one for sure. There's a lot of things. So I always tell people, a home is really not an investment. It is to a degree, but the first thing about a home is what? It's your home. It's where you live. It's where your memories are going to be created. It's your life. It's not the investment return on that money. That's a different thing altogether. So, again, inflation's been for houses have appreciated a little bit higher than what the inflation rate has been. But again, not when you think about the cost of owning a home, insurance, taxes, maintenance, there are a lot of things you put into a home over time. So, I think those things are fairly interesting. One other thing we talk about how high interest rates are today in the affordability, but mortgage rates, right? So mortgage rates, the mortgage rate today, as of April 1st anyway, they've eked up a little bit post war, but right they were at 6%. In 1966, the mortgage rate was the big reveal would be 6%. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. So, there's a lot of other parallels, that I could go into, but I think those are some very interesting things to think about. Now, the tools, the investment landscape was much different, not nearly as many people were involved in owning stock, own the stock market, if you will, in 1966 as they do today. The mutual fund ETFs, there just weren't a lot of funds. There weren't a lot of ways for the normal, American to get invested, into things back then. You know, Pension plans were prevalent, not 401k plans were prevalent. So that's the evolution of where we've gone there. So, now much more exposure across the landscape of the 350 million Americans or so. I'd say roughly more than half, probably closer to 60% of Americans own stocks in some shape, form, or fashion, whether, individually or through, kind of passively through their 401k plan. So there's a lot more of that. So those are just some things to kind of think about there. The more they change, the more they stay the same.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks.
But you're a Bingham. You grew up in this company as well. Would love to hear your perspective on the history, how things have changed or how they haven't.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. And I mean, in a weird way, my memories extend back to from this place, extend back before I was even born, from hearing them from my dad, John, who was an attorney who set or worked for the law firm that's literally catty corner to us here at B&H. Uh, and So yeah, you were talking earlier with my uncle about on the previous episode about the struggle of balancing, being a young father with a family and balancing, starting a business with, the challenges of taking care of three kids. And I know, for instance, in 1966, my dad was a very good swimmer, and they were taking him to swim meets that summer. I think he went to one in Chattanooga. He's told me this story a few times. And he came out, I think, second. He placed in the top three, and this "Lovin' Spoonful" song, "Summer in the City," had just come out. It was one of my dad's favorite songs, and the parallel with my uncle talking about how things, you know, they a lot of things change, but they stay the same. So in 1995, 29 years later, I was a track athlete, and my dad took me to an AAU meet in Birmingham, and I qualified. I didn't finish as high as he did, but I qualified, and we went and saw the movie Die with a Vengeance. And if you have ever seen that movie, the opening title credit song in the movie, "Love It Spoonful," "Summer in the City."
Hmm.
And so, we had that nice parallel, and it was a very good father-son trip. And he talked about, B&H being founded back then, and my dad took immense pride in this place. He really did. And to illustrate that, up until the last day of my dad's life, we were doing yard work. He was wearing B&H. He's got it on his head, and I still have that hat in my private collection. I always will. Yeah.
Mhm.
And when I was a kid, 5 years old, we came down here and watched 4th of July parade every year. One year we got locked, me and my cousin Rhett got locked up in the attic. I don't know if he remembers that. And my grandfather had to come rescue us. So yeah, I've got just tons of memories wrapped up in this place, and my father's passed down to me over the years. So yeah, it means the world to me. It really does.
Yeah, that's
Very
beautiful,
cool.
man.
We appreciate you sharing your perspective and the history of the place, Matt. So both of you, for a question, and we've got about 2 minutes left. How do you see the firm's value proposition evolving over the next decade as client needs and technologies like AI change? I know that's going to be tough in 2 minutes, but
You want to take it? You want to start it?
Well, yeah, as I think, again, my uncle touched on in the previous episode. He talked about, we were incorporating artificial intelligence down here, using it as a supplement to our current set of skills. And, that's one way we're progressing. We're using more video. Obviously, we're doing podcasts. We're trying to, branch out and use more modern mediums to reach our clients, connect, and move forward and deeper into the 21st century. Here we go. Best is yet to come.
Best is yet to come. Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. I mean, you just think about how, again, I don't our value, our proposition, our the way that we want to take care and serve our clients, as I always talk about, it that desire is not going to change. The ways that we do it will continue to evolve and change, and it should make us better. So we're not using, whether it be this type of media or using AI, to not have that one-on-one touch with clients. We're using those things so we can have more one-on-one touch with our clients. So it can do the, kind of the work behind the scenes and make us more efficient and proficient in that and make us quicker, if you will. So I can spend more time in this room individually, with my clients, kind of knee to knee, if you will. Because again, this is still this business, in my opinion, no matter how much technology and how much disruption that AI, you know, provides to the world, right? Disruption of employment in the world out there, in the for taking care of people's hopes, their dreams, their aspirations, and dealing with their finances and their wealth, is never going to be something that's only going to be done on a screen or by an AI voice. It's going to be done individually, because that AI is never going to get to know you the way that we're going to get to know our clients and know what they are really trying to accomplish, what's important to them. And that's humans will always do that better than AI.
Amen, brother. Amen. Well, guys, thank you so much for spending some time talking about the legacy and again and the future of B&H Wealth Strategies and all of the good things to come. I'm sure in the next episode we'll probably touch on more as you celebrate 60 years moving forward. So thanks so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you then.
Thanks, Skip. And to everybody out there, thank you and God bless.
Thanks for tuning into the Four Seasons podcast, brought to you by B&H Wealth Strategies, where your financial success is our priority. Schedule your free 20-minute consultation today by calling 423-247-1152 or by visiting bhretire.com. Take the first step toward making your financial dreams come true. Until next time, remember, every season is the right season to plan for your future. Securities and registered investment advisory services offered through Silver Oak Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. B&H Wealth Strategies and Silver Oak Securities, Inc. are not affiliated.